My name is De'Marchoe Carpenter. I'm from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I grew up on the north side of Tulsa, and my upbringing was pretty fun. I had a brother, a sister. My brother's 2 years younger than me. Then I had three other cousins that we all grew up in the same home, Brandon, Thomas, and then John. So we were all pretty close, and we just had fun and did stuff as a kid, catching bees, putting them in jars, and putting frogs in the jars with the bees, and we'd get in trouble for doing that, but it was fun. We played football in the streets growing up. It was supposed to be touch football in the street and tackle on the grass, but someone always managed to, get tackled in the street, and it was funny because they would jump up like they was all right. And if it was me that got tackled in the street, I jumped up like it was all right, and I was really hurting. But, boys in the neighborhood, you gotta act like you tougher than, act like something didn't hurt, but just for your peers, you gotta act like it didn't really bother you. But it was fun. It was a lot of drugs, gangs, and other stuff like that I witnessed that, people from my demographic do witness in black communities. It was 1989 when I had my first encounter with a gang. I had a light blue shirt on, some light blue pants, my favorite Walmart outfit, and I was walking from my auntie's house headed to my grandma's when some of the neighborhood guys that was older than me surrounded me, started punching me, ripping my shirt off my shirt pocket, ripping my pocket off my shirt, ripping my pants pocket off. And I actually I recognized a couple of those guys. And one of the guys was, Mike Wilson's brother. Mike Wilson stayed across from me. Mike Wilson was a guy that was my age. He stayed across the street from my auntie. And his brother Boo Boo and his relative Terry Price was two of the guys that I noticed. And those that got Michael Wilson, his name, I'll talk about him later on. But we grew up in the neighborhood just doing stuff that a lot of people do growing up, riding bikes, stealing bikes, and and I don't want to paint a picture like I'm a saint because we did steal bikes and stuff like that. My uncles, they was on my case about staying in school, doing my homework, going to practice. I always thought I was gonna be a comedian, a track star, or go to the NBA. That was my goal. After that incident, when those guys surrounded me, it made me kind of just look at things different. I really wanted to make it out of the hood to get my family, my mom in particular, away from this environment. So I went to a school, Rogers High School, and this is where I just really fell in love with basketball. My coach Clifford Criddle, he used to be on me, give me a hard time. Kids at that age, they think their coaches is being hard on them. But, looking back, I realized what he seen in me, and, it was something that I needed, because I never knew my dad. I've never met the guy. I've only seen a picture of this guy that I always thought that was my dad. But Coach Criddle, he was on my case. He pushed me, and along with my uncles, he really had me thinking that I could go to the NBA. So, we doing this, going to school, practicing, I'm just living life. It was 16 years. I was 16 years old when I got shot. I was at this club. It was called the Wagon Wheel. I was there with Malcolm and Marlon and their cousins. But we was just there. It was an after hour spot. We was there. They went in there to get some fish. And, I don't know, I was in the car or something, but, something made me go in. But we all went in here, and then as I got out the car and we was headed in, that's when I got shot. And I got shot with two different calibers, SKS, and then it was a handgun. I'm not sure what the other caliber was, what kind of gun it was, but I got shot several times. Marlon put me in his car. Him and Malcolm, they lift me up, put me in Marlon's car, and they was rushing me to the hospital. As they drove off, they seen an ambulance a little few blocks down the street, so they flagged the ambulance down. The ambulance, they did what they did. They put me in the back of the car, and they rushed me to the hospital, administering procedures and surgeries and trying to save my life. So actually they told me that, it was Marlon's quick thinking that, put me in the car that saved my life. And so, I'm still cool with them guys. But I got to the hospital, and I really don't even remember that time. I remember Marlon talking to me in the back of his car, him and Malcolm telling me to stay woke, talk to him. But after I got to the hospital, it was like probably weeks later I was in a coma. So I didn't remember a lot of those things that they was telling me until I actually don't remember some of that stuff. He used to come visit you, and I don't remember. I was in a coma. So I was in the hospital for 3 months. From November 21st till February, sometime in February. I got out the hospital. I have a brace on my arm, a colostomy bag, and I was already skinny. I was 163 pounds, 6'4", 163 pounds. I came out the hospital weighing less than that, so I was frail. So I got out the hospital, I was doing homeschool. And, I just didn't feel comfortable going back to school, mainly because I had this colostomy bag. I had low self-esteem at the time. I thought I smelled like feces. Whether I did, I don't know, but that's in my head, just because this thing is attached to me. It kind of made life harder for me. After I got shot and got out the hospital, I'm walking around with this bag. I didn't want to go hang with my friends, A few people knew about it, but, just changing it every day, several times a day, because I didn't have control over my bowel movements. So that was, it was really hard. One time, I'm not going to say I thought about killing myself, but, it was like I didn't know if I wanted to live or not because of this bag. So, as time went on, I started dribbling the ball again and start practicing shooting the ball, and I'd be by myself. I go to the gym by myself. When people come, I would leave because I didn't want nobody to know that I had this bag on. So, I was getting stronger, and I eventually started going back to school. And Coach Critter, he had very encouraging words for me that motivated me and made me want to get back to my full potential, my full capabilities, and because I had limited limited movement with my arm. This is as far as I can bend this left arm back. But Coach, he was like, yeah, you do this, and I started back believing in myself. So that's when I just decided that I was going to stick to basketball and I was going to pursue the NBA. 10 months after I got shot, I was arrested. Me and Malcolm both were arrested for the murder and some shootings. The murder of a young lady who was a teenager with a child at the time. And at the time of this crime, it was sad. I had seen a lot of stuff in my neighborhood, but I had never seen anyone get arrested and go to prison for something they didn't do. So we ended up getting arrested, me and Malcolm, and I knew I didn't do it. So that was the crazy part about it. I'm like, I know I didn't. I'm like, no, I didn't do this. I don't even know this person. And the night, not fast forward, let me rewind to the night that this happened. Michael Wilson, who's a guy from the neighborhood who stayed across the street from my auntie, him, his cousin Billy Alverson, and Billy Alverson's stepbrother, Richard Harjo. I see them the night that this crime happened. Night this crime happened, I'm with Malcolm and we hanging out with some young ladies. We see Michael Wilson and his crew, and they asked what we was fit to get into. We told them, man, we fit to hang out with these ladies. You know, I don't know what y'all on, but this is what we doing. So we said our what's ups and goodbyes, and we went in our different directions. Later that night, or maybe 2 days later, a day later, I see on the news that Malcolm had got arrested. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. I was with Malcolm. That's what really threw me. I was like, what happened? I really didn't understand it because I was with him. And then the very next day or later that night, they came to my auntie's house where I was staying at the time, and they arrested me. So I go down there, and I see Mike Wilson. And I say, hey, what's up, Mike? And me and Mike, we never had beef. You know, I went over his house a few times, played a game. But we wasn't cool like that, but we never had any beef with each other or nothing like that. He was a little different, like he was weird. He really didn't come outside a lot. But I see Mike Wilson, and he was like, man, I don't know why they got me. He's like, why they get you? I said, I don't know. So I went in the room and the detective started asking me questions. You know, do you know this person and that person? I'm like, no. And I'm telling him no, and then he said, well, the guy in the next room said that, you know, you do know this person and you are guilty. He gave you a gun to commit these crimes, to go do this shooting. I'm like, he gave me a gun to do what? This don't even sound right. I didn't do this. So, you know, my auntie's there, my mom's there because I'm a minor, and my auntie said that he's willing to take a polygraph. I said, yeah, I am. You know, I'm willing to take a polygraph and do whatever I need to do because I didn't do this. But they never did that. They ended up arresting me. They booked me into the Tulsa County Jail, and it was horrible. You know, you walking through this hallway and you see these squalid walls, and it's just a mess. It was dirty. It was not something that I was used to. So I'm walking down here, and it's like a nightmare. But I'm like, it's gonna be all right. You know, they're gonna get this straightened in the morning, and I'll be out of here. And so, you know, they ended up putting me in a juvenile cell with 2 other guys, and you know, I was familiar with one of the guys. He was from a different set than what I grew up in my neighborhood, with different set than the guys that, you know, I was around coming up. And so I'm scared. I'm not gonna lie, I was scared. You know, I'm skinny, I got a colostomy bag. The brace that I was supposed to have on my left arm, they didn't allow me to have it. I'm in a feeble condition as far as my arm was feeble. You know, I hadn't gained my full strength back in my arm. So I got in there. You know, I didn't know what to expect, but, you know, those guys, you know, they let me make it basically because they seen the colostomy bag. So one of them said we should kick his ass. He from that other side, but we're gonna let him make it because we don't want to kill him. So, you know, I was scared. I didn't get no rest that night. You know, I'm laying on the top bunk thinking, you know, I better not go to sleep. They gonna do something to me. You know, it was 2 months later when I turned 18 and they put me in an adult team. As soon as I turned 18, they put me in there, and the young lady who was killed, her cousins is affiliated with the rival gang than the guys that I grew up around. And I was never in a gang. I always grew up with people that was in gangs around me. So I was always considered a gang member just because I grew up with these guys. They considered me a blood. And it wasn't like that. It was just, this is what I grew up in, you know, and especially after that encounter where they beat me up and ripped my clothes, you know, I knew you can't wear blue in your neighborhood. I couldn't wear blue in my neighborhood. it was going to either wear blue and go through what I went through before, and why would you take yourself through that? So I turned 18 and they put me in this tank, and the people jumped, they just start beating me. They said, "Hey homie, what's your name?" Before I could even tell them my name, they said, "Yeah, we already know who you is, come on." And they was on me. They was punching me, kicking me, jumping off tables, and I fought back. I did what I could, but it was about 4 or 5 of them. I was outnumbered, outmatched, and I was beaten till I was unconscious. After they did that, they beat on the beanhole, and the officer drugged me out of there, and I went to medical, and they cleaned me up and put me in another cell. So, I went to the cell, and I was like, man, I thought this would be over the next day. This is 2 months later. I'm like, man, I'm just talking to God, praying, like, when is this gonna be over? Come on, just give me the strength to stay strong and make it through this. So, I'm going through whatever I'm going through in the county, and it was about 6 months later. 6 months later, this is when I had an encounter with Mike Wilson. No, first it was Billy Iverson. I had an encounter with Billy Iverson. And I said, "Hey man, what's going on?" Then he just said, he came out of nowhere, man, it wasn't supposed to happen like that. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. I'm not even understanding what he's talking about. So what you talking about? He said, man, then he just explained to me, that, because I never understood what was going on in the county. Even though the guy said that Michael Wilson had said that I did it, I never understood why I was in there, why am I in here for? I'm like, why would Mike Wilson say that I did this if I didn't do this? So I never believed that. But when I encountered Billy Iverson, he told me how him, Harjo, and Mike had committed this crime, and basically told me that I had took a rap for something they did. I was devastated. I was shocked, And he was like, man, just have your lawyer, your lawyer. I had a PD at the time. He said, man, have your lawyer get in touch with me, and I set the record straight and tell him everything that happened, how it really went down. And Alverson was in the county on a case with Michael Wilson and Richard Harjo. They had beat a man to death with a bat at a Quick Trip. So had they never let Mike Wilson go, they could have saved a lot of torment and, for a lot of people, a lot of families, not only me and my family and what we went through, but, that other guy that, because he was the clerk at the Quick Trip, and he was the mastermind of robbing the Quick Trip, and it was his co-host that they beat to death with this bat. Not co-host, but co-worker. And, they could have saved a lot of pain, a lot of heartache and pain for a lot of families. So I end up telling my public defender, hey man, this guy said that he know I didn't do it because he the one that did it, him and his crew, and he willing to tell you the truth and talk to you, get an affidavit and all that. And he was like, okay, wonderful, cool. So, I was in the cell with him a couple of months, a month. The whole time I was in there, he never, my lawyer, my PD never went and talked to Billy Iverson. So we end up going to the hole for something. I'm not sure what it was, and then that's when I encountered Michael Wilson. I woke up one morning and, you gonna look in, you hear noise, you hear the door open, you gonna get up and see who coming in. So I looked, I was like Michael Wilson. And then I didn't say nothing, I just waited till I had my little hour break, because you get out of an hour in this little runway to use the phone, take a shower. So I get out there and I go look in the beanhole, and it was Michael Wilson. And I was like, man, what's going on, man? I talked to Billy, and he's saying that y'all did this. And he just was going on like, man, I know it was messed up, man. I didn't mean to get y'all caught up for something that I did. Man, I was just trying to buy some time. I was like, man, this messed up, man. you need to make this right. He said, yeah, I'm gonna make it right. So the next morning, when I woke up and came to the beanhole to talk to him again, he was gone. So I was like, whoa. And I ended up telling my lawyer the day before that, hey man, this dude, like, he's saying that he did this. You need to talk to him, man. You never want to talk to the other guy. You need to go talk to both these guys. And then you hear stuff in the county. People talk. So I'm telling him, hey man, come talk to this person. They was in the cell with him. They can verify everything that I'm telling you. So he never went and talked to any of them. So a year and a half later, October of the next year, October of 94, October 94, it's trial time. And I'm still thinking, it was October 95, because I went in September. So it's about a year later. So I'm thinking, man, I'm thinking to myself, I'm gonna beat it. I didn't do this. Surely I'm not going to prison for something I didn't do. So, we in trial, we called witnesses, the state called our witnesses. People get up there, a couple of witnesses get up there and lie. One guy said that he was shot in the buttocks. And another guy said he was shot in the buttocks and the arm. And he was like, man, I got shot in the buttocks. How could I see anything? And then the other guy that got shot in the buttocks, he's telling him, yeah, I seen this and that. I'm like, how could you see that? All this if you got shot in the buttocks. Surely you was running. You was leaving the area of the gunfire. And not only that, I didn't do this. So why would you say this? Michael Wilson got up there. He said that, he recalled every question that anyone asked him. He said he didn't recall. So, did you give him the gun? I don't recall. Did you say this the night that this crime happened, that you seen these guys and you gave him the gun? He said, I don't recall. And he's like, I'm facing the death penalty case. I don't recall nothing. And then another guy got on there for the state and said that it was us. And I really just want to get up and just, run up there and just tell them how they lying, kick them or something. You lying. You didn't see me this night. You didn't. So, that was trial. While we was in trial, while we was deliberating after trial, we went to the back. We waiting on them. They deliberating. About an hour into deliberation, the public defender came back and said, they trying to give me 15 years. And then if I tell on Malcolm, if I say Malcolm did it, and they tried to come give me 8 years to say Malcolm did it. I was like, why would I say this? We didn't do this. If y'all saying we was together and we did this, I can't say Malcolm did this because we didn't do this. So that was the story. I stuck with that, and they came back with a guilty verdict. Then they said guilty, life sentence, 75 years, 20 years to run consecutive. So I had a life in 170 years for this crime that I didn't do. So I remember standing up, my mom, I seen everyone, my family was in there. Everything was moving in slow motion. I was sad, and I don't know what my facial expression was, but I seen everybody crying, and I ended up leaving, and it was really crazy. It was really like the movies, how it's slow. I didn't hear anything, and then when I got in the hallway, that's when I started hearing it's gonna be all right, and all those things that people try to do to make sure that I'm all right or whatever. So I ended up going back to my cell, and I ended up getting on my top bunk, and I just cried myself to sleep. It was the next morning when I found out that it was a such thing as an appeal process, and that I had actions. It was one of the jailhouse lawyers. He said, man, if you didn't do it, man, you're going to be all right. You'll get out of here. Just go to the prison library, learn the law, and then you got to get yourself out. then that's what you got to do. So I end up pulling chains going to McAllister, OSP. It's a maximum prison in McAllister, Oklahoma. I remember pulling up, and the prison, I tell everyone, the prison looked like death. And, you know, it was horrible. It was horrible. I got there, and I'm walking up the stairs around the corner. It was real quiet. And I found out later on that it was quiet because someone was being executed. And that's why it was so quiet. I ended up knowing someone on the same run that I was on from the streets, and that kind of made things easier because this guy was like a big brother who I always looked up to. And only thing is he had received a life sentence too. So me and him end up being cellmates. And I was a little more comfortable because I knew him. I had someone in the cell that I trusted, and I didn't have to worry about, you know, some of the funny stuff that I heard that goes on in prison. You know, people will try to rape you or, you know, take advantage of you, you know, extort you. You know, it was me and him against everyone, and he was like, you know, even though he was smaller than me at the time, because I'm working out in the county. The whole time I was in the county, I started working out to try to build my strength. First time I did push-ups in the county, it was 7 push-ups. And that workout continued throughout the throughout the county, throughout my stay in the county jail. And throughout prison, I just continued working out. Also, while I was in the county, I started writing everyone, organizations, TV shows, whoever I felt like could help me or who I felt needed to hear my case in order to help me. I started writing them. So when I got to McAllister, that continued. You know, I continued writing people throughout my whole stint. And it was nothing to do. You're on 23-hour lockdown. You know, you go to the yard 1 hour, we go to the law library once a month. And it was really nothing to do. It was really hard. And at the time, you know, the white guys, they ran the prison. And there was a lot of stuff going on. The guards was racist. They would open up certain cells and let the white guys go in there and beat up a black or stab him or whatever. They was rigging the door so they couldn't close it. When I went to the shower, most people kept their knives on them, you know, so I was going to the shower with a knife too, because I didn't want to fall victim of, you know, some of the evil that lurked. So throughout my whole stay, you know, I'm writing letters. I'm staying focused. You know, I don't want to come. I don't want this to be my fate. I don't want to die in here. So it was in '97 when I meet Corey Atkins, who is Malcolm's big brother. And I heard stories of Corey on the street. Malcolm used to tell me that he was in prison for something he didn't do because someone had lied on him. So messing with Malcolm and Marlon, and I felt like I knew Corey. So me and Corey, we clicked and we became good friends, and I started viewing him like a brother because, you know, he was always sending me kites. You know what a kite is? A kite is like a letter. You know, that's basically what it is. It's a letter. So he would send me a letter over there. And, you know, just telling me, hey, man, just stay strong and everything gonna be all right. And just stay working out and, you know, read your Bible and stuff like that. So I was doing all that. And it was hard because, you know, going to the yard for that 1 hour, we would have to get handcuffed and shackled, put all our clothes out the bean hole, come out naked, you know, fully naked, and then put no socks, nothing, and then put your clothes on after they shake your clothes down, pat your clothes down. And they was using that as a method for people to not get knives to the yard, but that didn't stop nothing. Knives still got to the yard. It was still drugs, and, you know, because guards was corrupt. They would do whatever they needed to do, bring cigarettes and a lot of other stuff just to get money. And it's a lot of money to be made in prison too, if that's not to be made, but it's a lot of money being made in prison, you know, because of corrupt cops bringing in cell phones and stuff like that and packages. So I met Corey, and me and Corey hit it off, and I used to tell him, stay strong, man. But it was funny that I met Corey under the circumstances. We both in here for something we didn't do. So, I ended up leaving, and it was in 96 when I got the colostomy bag reversed. I ended up writing a hospital, Griffin Memorial, which is in Norman, Oklahoma. So they came and got me, took me to Griffin Memorial, reversed the bag. I came back to the prison. I was in some pain. There was some complications, so I went back to the hospital, and they did another surgery. Then they sent me back. And then when I got back, they had gave my bed away, so I had to go to SEG, which is underground. It was where they keep, the death row inmates and the troublemakers. So I had to go there for nothing because there wasn't no bed available in population. And this was really, it was really bad. Underground, there's no sunlight, you even go to the showers handcuffed. So I ended up leaving there at the end of the summer of 97, and I was happy to get away from there. I was like, man, I want to, because you heard how you can get to a yard, you can work out, and you just want to get off this lockdown. So, I was happy to get there, get to Granite, just so I could walk around. And Granite was gladiator school. And when I got to Granite, I'm gonna go back to 96. So in 96, it was this guy named Kareem, this Muslim guy. One day we waiting on showers, and he ran down there with this photo album. He was, man, look at this. So people always let people look at pictures. I'm thinking he could show me some pictures of some women nude or something. So he showed me an article, and it's my name and Malcolm's name highlighted in the back of this photo album. He was like, man, I don't know who this dude is. I think it's her cousin or something, man, brother or something. But the dude was the cousin of the young lady that got killed. And he was known, he was an OG. Everyone knowed him, and it was just funny that this guy ended up leaving this day that he showed me this. He ended up leaving to a lesser facility, I believe. But, I don't know what would have happened had he stayed there, because he got my name highlighted. It's like he's after me. So I remember getting a knife out the hiding spot, because I wasn't going to go take my knife to the shower this day. But I ended up getting my knife out. And by the time they got to me on the showers, it was dude had moved. He left. Because they start one end, it's a long run, and they started on this other end. By the time they got to me on this end down here, the dude was gone. So I don't know what that was. Like, damn, this dude could have, he was probably, somebody was going to get hurt. And he didn't know who I was, but I knew who he was thanks to this guy showing me this, my name was highlighted. So when I get to Granite in 97, a year after I encountered that dude, I ran into his brother, Mike D. And he was an OG Crip, and everybody knew him, and so it was crazy. He came to the gate. I was packing my stuff one day, and he came to the gate. He said, hey man, let me holler at you. So I went to the gate, and I'm talking. He said, hey man, I know who you is, and I know everything, man. You ain't got to worry about nothing. I know you didn't do that, man. I know you didn't kill my cousin. So his brother, they have the same dads. I was familiar. His name was can't think his name right now, but he grew up in my neighborhood. I knew him, Terry Markham. But this was his stepbrother. He said, yeah, my bro told me you didn't do that, man. You ain't got to worry about nothing. So after he left the gate, I went and found some people I knew, and I said, man, I need a knife. Because I didn't know what this dude was on. Why would he tell me? I didn't know if he was trying to plot on me or not. So I ended up getting a knife, and I just held it. I wasn't gonna go stab him, because I'm trying to wait for him to make a move, because I don't know what he on. So then the dude started throwing me stuff. Here you go. He gave me some weed and some packages, and I said, he trying to bait me in, man. He trying to, I don't know. But, the dude seemed like he was really genuine. But I couldn't be sure of that, and I didn't want to, misjudge a situation and end up in a bad predicament. But he ended up leaving the yard and went to a lesser security, because he didn't have a lot of time. So, while I'm over there, I'm still writing letters. It's weight there. I'm lifting weights, and I had never been that big before. I'm playing basketball, and this is where all the confusion, the fights, the confrontations, all this come on the court. I noticed that 80% of the fights happen on the basketball court. So for a little bit, I stopped playing basketball because I was trying to separate myself from anything that could get me caught up in, because I was trying to go home. I didn't do this, I'm going home, I don't need to even be. But at the same time, I'm like, I need to be ready so I can get out and I can go play, because I'm still thinking I'm supposed to go play in the NBA. My game supposed to be superb. I'm running, my wind is long and everything. I'm talking about, I'm supposed to come dunk on some of these guys. This is what I'm thinking in my head. So it was like in 2005 when I wrote an Innocence Project in Missouri, the Midwestern Innocence Project. I wrote them, I sent them my transcripts, and they made copies and sent it back. They said they couldn't do nothing for me at that juncture, but if something came up, they would get back with me. So I didn't let that bother me. I was optimistic. I'm still writing. It was in 2009 when the young lady who I was writing, not the young lady I was writing, but the young lady who was my childhood sweetheart, from all these 15, from way back. Because by this time, I said, man, and listen, even in 2009, I'm still trying to play in the NBA. I'm still working out. The whole time in my head, I'm going to get out and I'm going to play in the NBA. And then in 2000, she came back into my life, Brandy. So she was helping me write, helping me with these letters, and she was doing stuff for me that I do appreciate, that I always appreciate. And at the time, right when it was the end of November when she came back, but it was in August of 2009 when I went off parole. And at this time, I received my GED in 2001, and from there I had just continued staying in classes, programs to get all these certificates. By the time 2009 came around, and listen to this. So one time, going back to 96, me and Clint, the guy that I knew from the streets, Wax. So me and him as cellies, I remember we getting this sheet in the through the bean hole, and we looked at it and we laughed. It was a time sheet, and we laughed. We laughed hard too. They said, "Man, look at this BS here." They say we ain't getting out till 2015. We didn't come off of parole until like 15 years later, 2009. So we laughing like 2009, man, we ain't gonna be in prison this long. Each year I kept hope. I always believed I was going home every year. Every year I'm going home. This is my year. But in 2009 when she came back, I'm telling her, I'm fit to be home because I'm waiting on the governor. I'm fit to make parole. And cause I made parole. I made parole in 2009, and she was helping me write letters. She was getting letters from people, tell them I need them to write a letter. She would go have them write a letter and pick it up and send it to the parole board or to the governor or to whoever it was. And I think it was in December when I found out that I didn't make parole. So I was devastated, December, January, it was really hard when I found out, because I'm like, I'm doing everything to make parole, to get out of here, to show people that I don't belong in here, and I didn't make parole. So I was sad, I was hurt. It was in 2011 when she got her tax money, Brandy, because by this time we still writing and we still corresponding and we cool. we was friends, but now we're in a relationship. So she took her tax money and paid for this lawyer. And not to forget that my mom paid for a lawyer. She took a loan out for a lawyer, a $10,000 loan out back in '94 that the lawyer beat us out of. But yeah, Brandy, she took this money, her tax money, and paid this lawyer. So I was optimistic because this lawyer, Gordon Melson, he was getting everybody out. Everybody that hired him was making parole. So I was like, yeah, I'm going on. I should have had a lawyer last time, and I would have, the governor, he could have went and talked to the governor. So he on my case. I'm coming up for parole. It's 3 years later in 2012. I made parole again. I said, okay, this time I'm gonna make it. I got a lawyer this time, so I'm gonna get out. I didn't make parole. I made parole. The governor, because once you make parole, the governor has to sign it for you to be released. So I made parole, and she didn't sign it again. We got a different lawyer. First it was Brad Henry, and then it was, I don't remember who it was in 2012, but she didn't sign it. It was a woman. Who was it? Who is the governor now? Mary Fallin? Mary Fallin. Mary Fallin didn't even sign it. Mary Fallin, why you didn't let me make parole? Sign that. She didn't sign it. So I'm like, I was devastated. So I said, okay. But while I'm going up, it was in 2011 when the Oklahoma got an Innocence Project, and some of the same staff from the Midwestern Innocence Project came to Oklahoma, and it was November or December of 2011, and I remember they reached out to me. I filled out a questionnaire, then some of the students came to visit me. So they came to visit me, and I was optimistic, and then, I'm moving on. So going back to 2012, I made parole. So I'm like, yeah, I made parole, I'm cool, I'm fit to make it. Innocence Project backing me. Then I got a lawyer, I'm fit to go home. So the governor, she didn't sign it. Mary Fallin, she didn't sign it. So I was heartbroken for real. I'm like, man, I'm doing everything to stay out of trouble, and she ain't signed my parole packet. So the Innocence Project was on my case, so I was still optimistic that, everything was gonna work out. It was in 2013 when one of the witnesses who had recanted their story, because in 2010, it's a lot I'm forgetting, like in 2010, the same two guys that testified on me recanted their story and said that, because that's what their initial statements was, that I didn't find that out till later, and we don't know who did it. But in 2010, actually in 2006, 2007, there was a lot of police corruption in Tulsa County, and guys was getting out. And it was 2010 when I found out that these guys recanted their story and had an affidavit. And the Innocence Project had it, my lawyer had it. Malcolm, I don't know how Malcolm got a hold of these affidavits, but he did. And he made sure that my lawyer got a copy, and I got a copy, and I used to write letters and send these affidavits to everyone. So I just knew that all this was in my favor going into parole, because I told the parole board and members I'm innocent. And that's why I really believe, even in the governor, I wrote, when Brad Henry, I wrote him, and Mary Fallin, I wrote her, and I sent her the affidavits. I didn't have them when I went up the first time, but I did write Brad Henry. So it was really hard when she didn't sign that, but I just told myself I'm just gonna get out, and I'm just gonna get out one day, and I'm gonna get my revenge with success by becoming successful and making it to the NBA. So in 2009, I also started writing a book that I'm close to having finished now, that I plan on having out next year. But in 2013, this guy, he died, Robini, he died of natural causes. So after he died, the Innocence Project got off my case. And that was the hardest thing to deal with. One of the hardest things to deal with while I was in prison. Because it was like, other than my grandma passing, that was the hardest thing to deal with, because it's like, they didn't believe me. It's what they told me, basically, by getting off my case. That's how I was taking it. So, after moping around for a few days, about a week, you know, it came to me in my sleep. I just woke up one day. I used to always keep some pen and paper by my bunk, whether on the floor, on a little something close under my bunk, under my mattress or something. But it came to me in sleep. It came to me in my sleep, and I woke up out of my sleep and wrote it down. And then I looked at it the next morning. It was like, make a video for social media. Because social media was becoming a trend. So they had this organization that used to come to the prison. Message Project is what it was called. They used to come to the prison and record the fathers reading books for their kids. So I didn't have any kids, but I would read a book and send it to Brandy's kids. And they recorded the previous years. But this year in 2013, I made a video for YouTube. I got on there and I told my story. It's like a 22-minute video. Tulsa man fighting for his innocence is the name of it. I got on there and told my story. Hey, my name is De'Marchoe Carpenter. I'm innocent. And then I shouted out some names: LeBron James and Oprah Winfrey and several other names. So after I got that video on YouTube, the Innocence Project got back on my case. So I felt good about that. I was like, I'm doing something that really helped myself. So they got back on my case, and but at the same time, I'm not gonna put all my eggs in one basket, because they had got off my case once before, so they had to do it again. So I'm still writing all these organizations. And it was in 2014 when Michael Wilson was executed, because they all got found guilty. And Michael Wilson and Billy Iverson was on death row. And Harjo, he was a juvenile. He was so young, so they just gave him life without. So it was in 2014 when he was executed. And he made a statement that Malcolm Scott and De'Marchoe Carpenter are innocent. And when he did that, it was all on the newspapers and everywhere. And then that just kind of boosted the hype around the case to want to get everyone involved. So that was 2014 when he said that. It took 2 more years for me to get released. So in 2016, the Innocence Project, after preparing that case for 5.5, 6 years, it finally paid off. We went back to the county jail. They heard our story. The judge, we went in front of a judge. We told our story, and they kept passing us. We in Tulsa County waiting for them to tell us what's gonna happen. So they finally came with a decision, and we was released on May the 9th, 2016. And that's the first time that I had seen the skies outside of prison. And it was beautiful too. And I still remember it. It's video on YouTube too, but I remember it like it was yesterday. I just walked out and looked up at the sky, and I was finally free. So we was free. Both of us, Malcolm and I, we was free. So we started to adapt. We was adapting. And it was easy in the beginning. It was a lot easier in the beginning than as time went on. Because we didn't have a lot of responsibilities. The only thing we had to do was, basically just kind of get used to everything. Everybody was kind of there for us, but not everyone. I feel like I wish we could have got a little more help. Far as we end up getting this lawyer who ended up beating us out of some money. And, we signed with him for the wrong reason. He was giving us cars and stuff like that. So, I wish we could have had help on finding the right lawyer and not just getting any lawyer because they gave us a car and, but, it was easy in the beginning. And I was having a lot of fun. I didn't have no responsibilities. I didn't have a job. It was, in a way, I was like a kid. Everybody wanted to see me. People throwing parties for us, and I had got my first car, and I'm driving around. It was fun. So as time went on, the years go by. A year later, it seemed that you got to get a job and you got to be responsible. Welcome to the real world, So it got a little harder, So it was hard for me to keep jobs. It was like I was always getting warehouse jobs. Because I don't have any other type of, I didn't have any type of, trade or anything. So I'm just taking warehouse jobs. And warehouse jobs, they all reminded me of a warehouse, being in prison, basically. So, I had problems keeping those jobs. Because I'm like, man, look at this. I'm in the warehouse, man. It's like prison. So, I've literally had over 30 jobs. I go to work, man, I don't want this. I'm gonna find me another job. It was a lot that I had to learn. I learned that you could never just leave one job without finding another job first. You always gotta have a job first. But I'm just leaving these jobs and then Brandy, 13 days after we were released, after I was released, we ended up getting married. So she's like, you just can't quit. You can't just quit a job, you gotta have another job. Why don't you just find something you like first? And I'm just going through jobs. I'll find a job, I'll get another one. And I'm getting another one, but I'm not holding it down. So it was 2017, I finally found another job that I like. It was in the medical field. I said, okay, this is cool. I can do this. This ain't a warehouse job. So I was cool with that. And then I ended up moving in the end of 2017 when the state, they cut us a check. It was supposed to be for $175K, but I ended up getting $108K, and Malcolm ended up getting something. It wasn't 175 what we were supposed to get, and that was due to this lawyer that, we was giving us cars. He was telling us we was getting these loans from this guy, and he was telling us that we wouldn't have to pay it back in interest. So when we got this money, this check, he had already took $68,000 from me and like 30 or 40,000 from Malcolm. So, we ended up, when I got my money, I ended up moving to Oklahoma City, to Edmond. And I had never had that much money. Like, wow. I'm trying to help everybody. I'm buying cars for, few people. I'm giving stuff away, and it just, the money didn't last. It lasted 3 months. $108,000 last 3 months. And I still had this other lawyer at the time. So 3 months later, after receiving, from October the 5th, when I received the money, to January the 15th, early January, I remember getting another loan from this guy, like a $10,000 loan. And that was even after he told me that, even after he had beat me, but I was like, dang, I'm not keeping a job. I got this one, I think it's gonna last forever. But it didn't. I had never had any, I didn't know how to manage money. spend it. I thought it was gonna come right back. I thought that money would last me till my civil suit was, resolved. That money lasted 3 months. And then I was pretty much in a bigger hole than I was, basically, because I had this money and I got all these bills on this nice house in Edmond. So, I'm buying Mercedes Benzes, and I had a Mercedes, and I bought my wife a Lexus, and I'm just giving money away, basically. This car wasn't even worth $15,000. It was like, so I started learning a lot of life lessons, more life lessons after the money was gone. There was a lot of people that was in my corner that wasn't there after the money was gone. So then I had to go get a job and keep a job and, maintain to pay bills. But it got hard. It seemed like more stress came, it was always something or somebody complaining.
I know when you and I had talked, when I first met you, that you had mentioned memory loss being an effect of your experience. You want to talk on that a little bit?
Yes. When I was in prison, I could remember everything. A lot. Not everything, but I could remember more. But it seemed like it's so much going on. Sometimes I get overwhelmed and I don't remember a lot now. I see a psychologist and I was seeing a therapist, for my PTSD. PTSD. Hold on. PTSD, yes, of course. For my PTSD, and it was helping just to have someone to go talk to, but I have short-term memory loss. I don't remember a lot of names and faces from last week, but I can remember. It's weird. I can't even describe, but I do have memory loss, short-term memory loss. People that I used to know when I was kids, you don't remember me? No. And I understand I don't remember all of them, but I don't remember a lot of stuff from last week. It's like I do something and forget it, and it's weird though.
Do you think there's any other effects from the trauma that you've experienced?
Yes, it's several. It's I got OCD, really bad, and it's probably some stuff that I ain't even been diagnosed with that I probably have, but I definitely have issues. I'm really like a loner. I like being by myself. I don't like people touching my stuff. And it's almost like, and it's just weird because it's sad because, I'm in this relationship, I'm married, and, but I feel like sometimes I treat my wife like a cellie because I've been in there so long. It's like, when I'm out here in society, it's all good. And then when I get home, that's like your time, basically. When you get to your cell, you put your headphones on and you don't want to be bothered. So I get to the house and get home and watch TV, and I don't want to be bothered, basically. But it's sad. It's disturbing in a way, but a real loner. I don't like having my back. I don't like being in crowds and having my back to a crowd of people because, in prison, anything can happen. And even now, you have a lot of, just people that's shooting up places, And then today, they didn't approve this gun law going into effect today, so a lot of people gonna be carrying guns, so that's gonna be on my mind too. Like, man, I really don't like hanging in certain places, but I love going to events like Innocence Conference and stuff like that, where I feel like I'm safe at, or schools. And even though it's shootings in schools, but universities, I feel kind of comfortable going to universities and speaking. But yeah, it's a lot of things that's possibly wrong with me that, I haven't got diagnosed with.
My last question is based on your experience how would you define or explain trauma to someone?
Trauma, there's different degrees and levels of trauma. And some people, another thing too, cars. I do not like being in a car when other people drive. You know, I feel like I have to be in control of my own life because, you know, you get in there and they might text or look away because I don't text and drive. So I know there's a lot of people text and drive and want to mess with the radio and all that. So I can't be in cars with other people driving. And that's just on top of not like just, I don't know how to explain it, but cars is just, sometimes the traffic, it just scares me at times, like, wow. But trauma, it's many levels to trauma. It's many levels and degrees to it. Because I know what I experienced, it was a trauma. You know, some people, I know people that have been raped before and now they're affected. You know, they don't want to go out in society because they dealing with this trauma of, you know, it possibly happen again. So, you know, I do like to be in my house and I spend a lot of time at home because, you know, I don't know what's going on in society. I'd rather be in my house where I kind of feel safe and comfortable. But I don't know if I answered your case, your question, but it's a lot of trauma, a lot of different levels to trauma. That I'm going to think of some great answers later on after you're not around.
How rare do you think your situation was? Do you think that there's a lot more people that we don't know who are serving time for something they didn't do?
Definitely. So each year they have something called the Innocence Conference. The first time I went was in 2017, and it was in San Diego. And it was like 900 exonerees. And I never knew it was that many people that was faced with this dilemma. 900 exonerees was there. People who had did time for crime they did not commit. Yes, it's definitely more people in there. You know, we got a guy right now in Oklahoma, Julius Jones, that, you know, he could very well be innocent. You know, just depending on who you ask. It's a guy by the name of, I can't think of his name. I want to say it was Daryl Reed, but I know that Kim Kardashian has spoke on him as well as Julius. You know, so if Kim Kardashian is speaking on this guy Julius, you know, if she sees something that's making her think that this guy's innocent, you know, he might be innocent. So it's a lot of people that could be possibly innocent doing time in prison that, you know, that might die there, unfortunately.